She's yours. The sentence didn't sound real when Serena whispered it through trembling lips beneath the storm. It sounded impossible. Like something David Hayes' mind refused to understand even after hearing it clearly. Rain crashed violently around them while thunder rolled above the clinic hard enough to shake the windows, but none of it sounded louder than those two words echoing endlessly inside his head. The little girl stood quietly beside Serena, clutching her coat while shadowy figures moved slowly through the darkness near the black SUV across the street. And suddenly every detail David failed to notice earlier rearranged itself into something horrifyingly obvious. The eyes. The timing. The age. His daughter. David felt his heartbeat slam violently against his chest as lightning illuminated the child's face again for a brief second. His knees almost weakened beneath him. 3 years. 3 entire years had been stolen from him without ever knowing Serena carried his child the night she vanished. He stared at the little girl as emotions collided inside him so hard it physically hurt to breathe. Rage. Confusion. Grief. Love. Betrayal. Relief. Every feeling existed simultaneously while Serena watched him carefully, like she feared his reaction more than the armed men approaching through the rain behind them. The black SUV remained motionless near the sidewalk while one of the men stepped beneath the flickering emergency light outside the clinic entrance. Expensive coat. Calm face. Cold eyes. The kind of expression that belonged to people accustomed to controlling fear instead of feeling it. He smiled slightly after recognizing David, and somehow that smile felt more dangerous than open violence. Serena immediately grabbed David's arm tightly as panic spread visibly across her face. Not panic for herself. Panic for him. David, listen to me carefully, she whispered urgently. You cannot react emotionally right now. But emotionally was the only thing David could feel anymore. The little girl suddenly hid tighter behind Serena while thunder cracked overhead again. Mommy. She whispered softly. David instinctively stepped in front of both of them as the shadowy figures approached closer through the rain. The man stopped several feet away and looked directly at David with unsettling calmness. Mr. Hayes, he said quietly. You've made this significantly more complicated than necessary. Serena's breathing became uneven instantly after hearing his voice, and for the first time since seeing her again, David realized something terrifying. Serena was never hiding from him. She was hiding for him. Rainwater poured from David's suit sleeves onto the pavement below while the men remained unusually calm outside the clinic. None of them carried visible weapons. None of them raised their voices. But something about their stillness felt practiced in a way David immediately distrusted. Professionals rarely needed to appear dangerous because real power usually moved quietly. One man remained near the SUV scanning the street while another spoke softly into an earpiece beneath his collar. They looked less like criminals and more like men trained to clean up problems permanently without attracting attention. Step away from them, Mr. Hayes, the scarred man said calmly. David didn't move an inch. Serena tightened her grip on his sleeve instantly. David, don't, she whispered shakily, but he ignored her completely. 3 years of grief and confusion had finally exploded into anger too powerful to suppress anymore. No more lies, he snapped sharply. No more disappearing. Who are you people? The scarred man studied him for several seconds before sighing faintly like someone exhausted by inevitable complications. This situation was never supposed to involve you, he replied quietly. David almost laughed hearing that. You took my wife, he said coldly. We protected your wife, the man corrected. David frowned immediately while Serena lowered her eyes toward the pavement. Thunder rolled across Manhattan again while traffic lights reflected silver across flooded streets nearby. Protected her from what? David demanded. The scarred man hesitated slightly before finally answering. From your father. Silence crushed the entire street instantly. Even the storm itself suddenly felt distant after those words. David stared at the man in disbelief while Serena looked physically shattered beside him. "My father died 12 years ago," David said slowly. "Yes," the man replied quietly. "And before he died, Richard Hayes created systems powerful people still profit from today." David felt something cold spread through his chest immediately. Serena's face filled with guilt and fear beneath the rain while the little girl clung tighter to her side. "The offshore accounts weren't fake," Serena whispered suddenly. David turned toward her sharply. "What?" Tears mixed with rainwater on Serena's face while she forced herself to continue. "I found them accidentally 3 years ago. I thought it was ordinary fraud at first. But the deeper I looked..." Her voice cracked completely. "The deeper I realized your father built something horrifying." David stared at her speechlessly while realization began tearing apart everything he thought he knew about his family name. The abandoned clinic basement smelled like dust, mold, and old electrical wires while weak emergency lights flickered overhead. Serena sat across from David holding their sleeping daughter quietly against her chest while thunder echoed faintly from the storm above them. David still looked emotionally numb after learning the child existed at all. Every few seconds his eyes drifted back toward her tiny face like his mind still needed proof she was real. Serena noticed it every time. And somehow that hurt her even more because she realized exactly how many years both of them lost. "My father built the Hayes Corporation from nothing," David said quietly after several minutes of silence. Serena looked at him sadly. "No," she replied softly. "That's the version the world knows." David's jaw tightened immediately. Serena inhaled shakily before continuing. 3 years ago I discovered hidden transaction records connected to shell corporations your father created before he died. At first I thought they were illegal offshore tax systems. But the files kept expanding. Hidden transfers. False identities. International movement records. David frowned slowly while trying to understand where the conversation was heading. Then Serena finally whispered the truth that shattered him completely. It was human trafficking. David stood up instantly so fast the chair nearly crashed backward behind him. "No." His voice echoed violently across the basement walls. Serena's eyes filled with tears immediately because she already expected that reaction. "David, no," he repeated louder. "You are not telling me my father trafficked people." Serena looked physically broken hearing him defend Richard Hayes. "I wish I was lying," she whispered painfully. "I spent weeks praying the evidence was fake." David began pacing across the basement while rage, denial, and confusion tore through him simultaneously. Richard Hayes was ruthless. Cold. Controlling. But evil? No. His mind rejected it immediately even while tiny memories started resurfacing. Armed security. Secret meetings. Strange late-night visitors his father never explained. Serena slowly reached into an old backpack hidden beneath the table and removed several flash drives wrapped carefully inside plastic. "Everything is here," she whispered. David stared at the drives while dread spread visibly across his face. He plugged one into the clinic computer nearby and folders immediately appeared across the screen. Names. Accounts. Shipping manifests. Bribery payments. Politicians. Judges. Executives. Then finally, Richard Hayes' signature appearing repeatedly across dozens of files. David's breathing slowed. Not from calmness. From shock so severe his body almost forgot how to function properly. And somewhere deep inside him, grief slowly transformed into rage. Rain battered the clinic roof above them while Serena finally explained the night she disappeared. David sat silently across from her, unable to look away anymore. Every answer he searched for during the past 3 years suddenly existed inside this basement, yet hearing the truth somehow felt worse than uncertainty ever did. Serena held their daughter protectively while speaking quietly, almost like saying the memories aloud still terrified her. I was pregnant when I found the files, she whispered. They realized someone accessed the records almost immediately. David's stomach tightened painfully. Serena continued staring toward the floor while remembering everything she spent years trying to bury emotionally. At first I thought it was corporate damage control. Then I started seeing the same vehicles outside the apartment every night. David instantly remembered the black SUV from the old security footage. Serena noticed recognition crossing his face immediately. Yes, she whispered softly. The same SUV. David clenched his jaw. You left voluntarily. Tears filled Serena's eyes instantly. I had no choice. The pain in her voice silenced him immediately. One of the men came to see me privately before I disappeared, she continued shakily. The man outside tonight. David's hands trembled slightly as he opened another hidden folder inside the flash drive Serena gave him. The old clinic computer hummed softly in the darkness while rain hammered the city above them like the storm itself was trying to drown the truth before it fully surfaced. Serena stood nearby holding their daughter quietly against her chest while Marcus remained near the basement stairs listening carefully for movement upstairs. Nobody spoke. Nobody breathed normally anymore. Because every second inside that basement felt like standing too close to something capable of destroying all their lives permanently. The folder finally loaded, video files, dozens of them. David clicked the first recording without speaking. Static flickered briefly across the monitor before security footage from years earlier appeared on screen. A younger Richard Hayes sat calmly inside a private conference room surrounded by powerful executives David recognized instantly from politics, finance, and international business. His father looked older in the footage. Colder somehow. Less human than David remembered publicly. The room carried the unsettling atmosphere of men discussing decisions capable of ruining lives while treating them like ordinary business transactions. Then Richard Hayes spoke, if anyone accesses the transportation network. Eliminate the witnesses before authorities become involved. David froze completely, the sentence echoed through the basement like a gunshot. Serena closed her eyes immediately while Marcus lowered his head toward the floor in silence. David stared at the screen without blinking as every memory he carried about his father slowly collapsed beneath the weight of undeniable truth. Not rumors. Not accusations. Proof. Real proof. His father wasn't manipulated into corruption. Richard Hayes built the system personally. Every hidden account. Every disappearance. Every destroyed life connected directly back to the Hayes empire David spent years protecting proudly. David suddenly slammed the laptop shut so violently the sound echoed across the basement walls. No, his voice cracked from rage and grief simultaneously. No, Serena stepped toward him carefully. David, my entire life was built on this? He exploded. Everything? Every dollar? Every building carrying my name? Tears filled Serena's eyes while David paced across the basement breathing unevenly like his body could no longer contain the emotional destruction happening inside him. He remembered being a child watching Richard Hayes praised publicly as a visionary businessman. A genius. A self-made billionaire. Meanwhile, hidden beneath all the success was blood, fear, and suffering buried so deeply nobody ever questioned where the empire truly came from. Then David stopped moving entirely, because another realization hit him. His father didn't just destroy strangers, Richard Hayes destroyed his own son too. Footsteps suddenly echoed above them, everyone froze instantly. Marcus looked toward the basement ceiling sharply while Serena tightened her grip around their daughter. David's breathing slowed immediately as survival instinct replaced emotional shock. More footsteps followed seconds later. Heavy. Coordinated. Multiple people moving through the clinic upstairs. They found us, Serena whispered fearfully. Marcus pulled a handgun from beneath his coat while David stared at him in disbelief. You carry that now? David asked coldly. Marcus didn't answer immediately. His expression looked exhausted in ways David never noticed before tonight. I started carrying it after the second investigator disappeared. Marcus replied quietly. Serena's face drained of color instantly hearing that sentence. David frowned sharply. What investigator? Marcus hesitated, too long, and suddenly David understood. You knew people were being killed. Marcus looked away first. That network didn't disappear after your father died, he admitted quietly. Men worse than Richard took control after him. David stepped closer slowly while anger spread visibly across his face again. And you stayed inside the company anyway? Marcus laughed bitterly under his breath. You think I had a choice? He snapped suddenly. You think powerful people just allow someone to walk away after seeing what I saw? Serena looked terrified now because she realized exactly where the conversation was heading. David's jaw tightened painfully. You helped them cover everything up. I helped keep you alive. The room became silent again. Marcus ran a shaking hand across his face before continuing quietly. The night Serena disappeared. They wanted her dead immediately. I convinced them not to kill her because she was carrying your child. David stared at him speechlessly while rage collided violently against confusion inside his chest. You expect gratitude for that? Marcus stepped closer suddenly. No. I expect you to understand survival changes people. His voice cracked slightly. I spent 3 years trying to stop them from finding Serena permanently. Before David could respond, a gunshot exploded upstairs. Everyone jumped instantly. Then another. Glass shattered somewhere above them while screaming echoed through the clinic corridors. Serena clutched their daughter tightly as the little girl began crying against her shoulder. Marcus immediately looked toward the back hallway leading deeper underground. We're out of time. The basement erupted into chaos seconds later. More gunshots exploded overhead while emergency lights flickered violently across the walls, throwing broken shadows through the underground corridors as armed men stormed the clinic searching room by room. Dust rained from the ceiling with every impact upstairs while alarms suddenly screamed throughout the building. Serena held their daughter protectively against her chest while David overturned a metal table near the hallway entrance for cover. Somewhere above them, another body crashed violently against glass followed by shouting and rapid footsteps moving closer. Marcus grabbed David's shoulder urgently. There's a maintenance tunnel behind the storage room. It connects to neighboring buildings. David looked toward Serena immediately. Take them and go. Serena's face filled with panic instantly. No, Serena, I'm not leaving you again. The sentence hit harder than expected. For a brief second the violence around them disappeared emotionally while David stared into her eyes realizing how many years both of them wasted surviving separately instead of together. But another gunshot nearby shattered the moment immediately. The basement door upstairs burst open violently and heavy footsteps began descending toward them. Marcus cursed under his breath. They're here. David grabbed the flash drives from the table nearby before turning toward Serena and their daughter. His daughter. Even now the truth still felt surreal inside him. The little girl stared at him fearfully while thunder shook the building overhead again. David crouched slightly in front of her despite the chaos surrounding them. Hey, he whispered softly. She looked at him carefully. You stay with mommy, okay? The little girl nodded slowly, then quietly asked, Are you coming with us? David's chest tightened painfully, because he didn't know. The armed men reached the lower hallway seconds later. Marcus fired first. Gunshots exploded through the basement while lights shattered overhead, plunging half the corridor into darkness. David shoved Serena toward the maintenance tunnel entrance while Marcus exchanged gunfire with the approaching men near the stairwell. The sound became deafening instantly. Concrete cracked. Metal screamed. Smoke filled the underground hallway while Serena cried desperately for David not to stay behind. But David already made his decision. For 3 years Serena protected him alone. Now it was his turn. David kissed Serena hard without warning, emotionally, desperately, the kind of kiss people give when they finally understand how close they came to losing each other forever. Then he pressed his forehead against hers. I love you, he whispered, Tears streamed down Serena's face immediately. "David, please, go." Marcus fired another round before shouting violently, "Move." David watched Serena disappear into the tunnel carrying their daughter while chaos consumed the clinic around him. Then slowly, he turned back toward the men destroying their lives, and for the first time since Serena vanished, David Hayes stopped running from the truth. 3 months later, global news exploded after the evidence leaked publicly. Politicians resigned overnight. Executives vanished before arrests reached them. International investigations connected dozens of wealthy organizations to the hidden transportation network Richard Hayes secretly built years earlier. Media outlets called it one of the largest corporate corruption scandals in modern history. The Hayes Corporation collapsed within weeks beneath lawsuits, criminal investigations, and public outrage powerful enough to destroy everything carrying the Hayes name. David Hayes disappeared from public business life almost entirely afterward, not because he was guilty, because he was exhausted. One quiet afternoon near the ocean months later, sunlight stretched gently across the shoreline while waves rolled peacefully against the sand. Serena sat beneath a large umbrella watching their daughter run barefoot near the water, laughing freely without fear for the first time in years. No bodyguards. No hiding. No surveillance vehicles watching from dark streets. Just peace. Real peace. David walked toward them slowly carrying 3 ice cream cones while ocean wind moved softly through his hair. Serena looked up at him and smiled faintly, small, emotional, but real. The kind of smile that only returns after surviving unimaginable pain together. David handed her a cone before sitting quietly beside her watching their daughter chase waves across the shoreline. "You should have told me," he said softly after several minutes. Serena lowered her eyes briefly. "I was trying to save you." David nodded slowly. "I know." Silence settled comfortably between them while golden sunlight reflected across the ocean ahead. Their daughter suddenly ran toward David, laughing before jumping into his arms, and something inside him healed completely at that exact moment. Not the grief. Not the scars. Those would remain forever, but the emptiness finally disappeared. David looked toward Serena again while their daughter rested against his chest, and for the first time in years, nobody was chasing them anymore. The storm was finally over.